Once again, here in the 757, we're doing a deep dive into foundations that are making an impact in our community. Here on Stay the Water, we're continuing with our Commonwealth Community Conversation series with Time for Her with Dr. Lavonne Hairston. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Gonna be fine. Just look at me. Welcome back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We hope that you're having a phenomenal Sunday here in beautiful Hampton Roads and wherever you're listening to us here as we broadcast live on the campus of the Norfolk State University, always on WNSB Hot 91, the soul of VA. Look, I don't know about you, but this week starts homecoming week for the Spartan Nation. So welcome back, alumni, also faculty, students, administrators, and all supporters. It's going to be a great week of activities. And yes, hats off to the Spartan football team that overcame, fought, and won and beat Morgan State. So we're looking for a great homecoming. We're looking for another victory. But more importantly, we're looking for you, the alumni, the supporters, to come back to campus, come back home where you belong, where it all started here at Norfolk State University. Well, look, we also thank our producer, Marvin Folks, also known as DJ Scandalous, for also keeping us right and tight every single week. And you can hear him throughout the week, every Monday through Friday and Saturday from 2 to 6 p.m. Well, listen, I don't know about you, but I'm extremely excited because we're concluding our Commonwealth Community Series discussion, and where we're delving in and talking with individuals that are making a huge difference in the community with their foundations. And look, we've had some phenomenal guests on the show. We've talked about a lot of foundations that are making impact, not just with children, but with individuals and people where they're looking at and trying to say, hey, life may have dealt you some cards that are hard to play, but we're here to make sure that you get everything that you need to make a difference. And today, in studio live, I am so glad to have with us one of our great medical professionals here in Hampton Roads, Dr. Lavonne Hairston, MD, who is the founder of Time for Her. Dr. Lavonne, how are you today?
I am well. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Look, we were talking earlier, and you said when you got the email from us, you were surprised to get it, and you were wondering, how do we hear about Time for Her? And I said it was the article. It was the article that I saw in the pilot where they highlighted the very important work that you're doing. And look, I said, we've got to have her on this show because what you're doing is not just making a difference now, but it's making a difference in the future. So tell us, what is Time for Her?
So Time for Her was originally Time, and it was founded in February of 2017. I was given words as I was driving to work one day, and I wrote them down when I got there. I wasn't quite sure what they were for, but later it came to be known as the nonprofit. Actually, during the time of development, the church that I used to attend, there were a lot of young women there who really wanted kind of a round table of sorts with me, knowing that I was a gynecologist, because they felt that oftentimes in the office, because our time is more limited, some of their questions were unable to be answered. And so during that experience, it was very eye-opening, some of the questions that went unanswered, but also some of the things that really everyone should know that, is not talked about and discussed enough in the office. And so that really kind of lit a fire in me me to really do this on a grander scale.
Yeah.
Initially, I wanted to do overall women's health education
Yeah.
through seminars, through speaking engagements, et cetera, in addition to empowerment seminars and mentorship. But that proved to be a little overwhelming because it was just myself and one other individual on my e-board. And so maybe about 2 years ago, I went through a rebranding of sorts, and time became time for her to become a little more descriptive. And the vision was given to me to really strictly focus on the mentorship aspect of the organization. And so it's all about mentorship now, specifically mentoring young Black women who are interested in pursuing their medical doctorate. And so it's been very well received. And so it's been really a joy to watch this aspect of the organization develop.
So let's take a step back before we delve into what Time for Her is doing, what it actually stands for, and what your vision for it is. I want to go back to when you decided that you want to become a medical doctor. Do you remember that moment?
Yes. So I actually decided I wanted to be a physician in high school. I thought that I wanted to be a pediatrician. And then I got to medical school, and I was very gung-ho family medicine. I thought that's what, I was, destined for. I held like this national student leadership position in everything. And then when I got to rotations, my third year of school, I cannot remember the classmate that I spoke with, but I distinctly remember saying, I'm not sure what I'm going to end up doing, but it will not be OBGYN.
And voila.
Right, here we are. And so when I went through my rotations, I realized that women's health was my passion. And of course, I didn't really know that prior to. I enjoyed the field. It was so dynamic, so versatile. And I really strictly wanted to help focus on providing care for women, because oftentimes women are busy providing care for everyone else and neglect themselves. And so I just really was excited about taking the opportunity to pour into women on a consistent basis.
Wow. Tell us about, you're a graduate of one of our great HBCU medical schools, Meharry School of Medicine. Tell us about your time at Meharry and what really helped to shape you to say this organization is needed.
So Meharry was fantastic. I am a graduate of the class of 2011.
All right.
I had a fantastic experience at Meharry. Definitely a very familiar environment, very encouraging. I actually still have mentors and other individuals that I communicate with regularly. Two of my best friends, Dr. Eric Bonner and Dr. Sheena Parnell, are both graduates of Meharry as well, and that's where we met. And so fantastic experience. But I will say that for me, it kind of gave me a false sense of security because, part of the reason for the organization is that only approximately 5% of physicians are African American or are Black.
Yes.
And depending on what resource you use, approximately 2.6 to 2.8% are Black women. And so when you're at Meharry and your entire class looks like you, but then you get out into the real world of residency and practice, and you oftentimes find yourself as the only brown face in a room, it's a very, very different experience. And so I absolutely loved Meharry. I still, have very close connections. But I will say that transitioning from Meharry to residency or to the quote unquote real world was difficult.
Wow. 5%. I want that number to stick out because I'm going to show you this statistic as well. The statistic right here. You said 5% of all medical doctors identify as being Black, right? And that's a mixture of Black nation, not just African American, but Black in across the board. And this statistic says of practicing lawyers in the United States, what percentage is that?
5%.
5%. So when people say, "Oh, do we have enough Black doctors or Black lawyers?" 5% out of 100% is only, you have 95% left that don't identify as Black.
Correct.
And most identify as white, even if they're white Hispanic, right? They identify as being white. So when you take a look at those numbers, we take a look and say, hey, this organization that you have is needed, and what we're doing at our HBCUs and other schools is definitely needed. Because like you said, it gives you that confidence
Right.
that you need to go out there. Could you imagine with the challenges that you stated that you had going into the practice, and could you imagine today without having that background and support of HBCU medical school?
Oh, right. I mean, the support that it created for me and the circle that I now have to lean on as a result of attending Meharry is what has sustained me in some of my most difficult moments.
Wow.
And so I certainly could not imagine.
Wow. You know, I talk about this all the time, you know, when we're out there and we're amongst the bar and we talk about, oh, do you talk to some of your classmates? And people are like, oh, maybe I have one or two. I'm like, I've got at least 50, minimum 50, you know, classmates from law school, black classmates from Southern University and one of our 5 HBCU law schools, 6 if you count UDC, but that I talk to all the time,
right?
You know, that we can lean on and that we rely upon for that support. So when people say, "Oh, HBCU is needed," the answer is
100%. Absolutely.
So support your HBCUs. Matter of fact, we've got a drive coming up very soon for our radio station. So an alumni is coming here this week, where it all started for a lot of our graduates and doing great things across the board. Right. So we want you definitely to support and give back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We're still delving into our Commonwealth Community Conversation series, where we're talking about foundations and talking to individuals here in the 757 and across the Commonwealth that are doing great things for our community and making an impact. Today with us, we have Dr. Lavonne Hairston, MD, who is a practicing OBGYN that started an organization called Time for Her, which is here to help to mentor and inspire more Black female doctors. So let's delve into it right now. What does TIME stand for?
Teach, inspire, mentor, and encourage.
All right. So teach, inspire, mentor, encourage. So when you say teach, what are you actually, well, first of all, what ages are you looking to mentor?
So I wouldn't specifically say an age per se, but more so young women who are in undergraduate institutions or are postgraduates and are attempting admittance or desire admittance into medical school. And so that may not necessarily be your traditional student. Right.
And it's interesting you mention that, because the traditional age of professional students now and college students is a little different from the 17, 18-year-old, you know, coming into school. You know, you have individuals that have life experiences.
Absolutely. And that we encourage now.
Absolutely. That's, you know, you have life experience, so you don't get that false reality of what life really is,
right.
You know. And we also find that a lot of times students that have life experiences are more focused.
Yeah, you know, interesting that you mentioned that, because at Meharry, I would say our class was like 50-50.
Okay.
50% who matriculated right from undergraduate institutions, and about 50% who had other careers, families, everything, and then came back to medical school.
Wow.
And it was interesting just seeing the different dynamics. Like, you're absolutely right. When you come back to graduate school, having had life experiences, things stress you out so much less.
Yeah.
Versus those of us who had come straight out of school that just let every little thing bother you, you know? So it was a very different dynamic.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? That's nothing. Trust me.
Correct. Like, I had kids and a husband. I'm not worried about that.
So looking at that age demographics, when you say teach, what actually can you teach that group, and what do you aim to teach them?
Oh man, so many things. Our goal is to bridge the gap that I feel is present between our pre-health advisors and, you know, their advice on completing academic courses or prerequisites versus actually getting into school and what that looks like afterwards. I feel like there is definitely a gap there. Most of the pre-health advisors, and we certainly appreciate what they do, but most of them are not physicians. They have not been to medical school. They do not have that background. And so they're typically relying on statistics, on numbers solely to tell students what to do to get into school. And it can be so much more than that, so much more difficult than that, and just so much more than just those numbers. And I think it's very important that for anyone on this journey that they understand the other challenges outside of academics that you may have in trying to pursue this career. So we really just want to kind of close that gap or bridge that gap.
Right. Can you give us an example of one of those challenges outside of just getting your MCATs, getting your application, and finding that right match?
So one of the challenges is, finding mentors, right? So if only 2.6 to 2.8% of physicians are Black women, then we can be difficult to find. We can be difficult to see. And representation matters, right?
That's true.
And so if you want to be a physician, but you don't ever see a Black woman physician, then sometimes you may think, hey, maybe that's not for me. Maybe I can't do that, or et cetera.
Wow.
But being readily available and actually reaching out to the various institutions here in the area and throughout the state of Virginia to let you know, hey, we're here. I know that sometimes it can be hard to find us, but we're here for you.
Wow.
So I think that's important too.
Absolutely. So inspire and mentor. So T is for teach, inspire and mentor. How are you doing that? And tell us about Dr. Loading, that particular aspect of time for her.
So Dr. Loading is, that is what encompasses our entire mentorship program. Wow. And so, initially this started out as primarily a virtual platform and still is. It's allowed it to be much more accessible.
Okay. Did you start that was it because of COVID?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the rebranding happened slightly before COVID, but then COVID happened. And of course, we're not going to put anyone in harm's way. But the virtual aspect, again, made it much more accessible. So it was a good thing.
Right.
And so with that, we've had a variety of seminars. On next Saturday, actually, we'll have Dr. Karen Lewis, who is the Associate Founding Dean of Student Diversity Affairs and Inclusion at the Frisk College of Medicine at Belmont University. We've had Dr. Thomas Kimball, who in the past has come to discuss ways to make applications much more competitive on the journey into medical school. We've had current medical students come and talk about their experiences through the application process, but also their current experiences in school. We've had current resident physicians come to chat with the ladies about their experiences. Wow. We've had financial advisors from Northwestern Mutual come to talk about wealth building and debt management.
Very important.
Correct. As it relates to financing your graduate education and how to really be debt-free, because there are many programs out there that sometimes you may not know about.
So say that. So there are programs to finance your medical education and be debt-free?
Correct.
Wow.
I didn't say there was a lot of them.
Right. Well, if there's just one.
They exist.
Absolutely.
And so it's just important for students to know these things, because when you get to school, these conversations may happen, but they're not going to be the focus.
That's right.
Right. And so if you go into school with that knowledge, you'll know, hey, I need to find this particular personnel so we can talk about this program so I can go ahead and get signed up.
Immediately. So with the virtual aspect, are you also having in person?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I actually had a few mentees last year that desired some in-person activities, and so this year I am trying to arrange those.
Wow.
I'm hoping for an in-person CPR course in November, because not only is CPR needed, in my opinion, for everyone, but it's also something that will strengthen their applications throughout the process of applying to medical school.
Really? Knowing
Yes.
CPR?
Yes. I'm hoping to have a self-defense course next year, in addition to some volunteering with Hampton Roads Urban Agriculture here in Newport News to talk a little more about food insecurity and, self-sustaining with your own gardens.
So tell us, so this is more than just, hey, this is how you apply to school. Here's your application. Be competitive with MCAT.
I mean, we definitely try to educate. We try to teach, as you mentioned,
right.
Through a variety of things that we feel would be helpful for them along the journey. The mentorship aspect is just, one piece, but, we're trying to make sure that, we go through other topics that needs to be discussed as well. But the mentorship aspect is the largest piece. And I just want to, also say thank you to all of the wonderful mentors who are a part of our program,
Absolutely.
who are, out here doing the work and encouraging these young women and providing shadowing opportunities and reaching out and, helping to push, pull, and do whatever we need to get them to, where we are.
Absolutely. So with the doctor, loading program, which is the crux of your mentorship. Tell us about Blaze Her.
Oh, Trailblazer.
Trailblazer. Yeah.
Oh, so monthly we have a Trailblazer, which is.
And by the way, I like to play on her. Dr. Her, Trailblazer, Her. I'm just saying, right? Time for her. So the theme is her, but we're going to talk about why just her just in a moment.
So monthly we have a Trailblazer. Who, which was done to highlight a Black woman physician throughout the country. And that is done for representation because, again, like, you can't be what you can't see, right? And so we just want to make sure that not only are Black women highlighted, but that the variety of specialties that we work within are also highlighted. And so that's very, very important. But it's also in order to continue to encourage the other Black women physicians out here who are doing the work.
That's good.
To say thank you for what you do. Thank you for serving the community. We're not often praised or anything like that, or highlighted. And so it's just my opportunity to certainly let everyone know we appreciate the work that they're doing, and to say thank you.
You mentioned, saying thank you and support the women that are out there doing the work. I think that's very important because a lot of times you're out there grinding, you're in the practice, you're doing everything that you need to do to be that professional that you are. And then sometimes you forget about you, and you got to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And so I think being able to get, and one of the best ways to take care of yourself is to give, believe it or not. But of course you got to focus on yourself, but at the same time giving. And what are some of the impact that you've heard from individuals that are volunteering their time that they found with the organization? What satisfaction have they given you?
I think that for most of us, the mentorship aspect has been very satisfying in knowing that they are directly involved with these young women who are pursuing medical school, that they are providing the shadowing opportunities, that they are also just providing a resource for them to reach out to when times get hard, because I think that's very, very important, because there can be a lot of roadblocks and speed bumps along the way. So just being there to help them say, hey, this is not a permanent detour. You're going to be fine. I've been there.
Wow.
Is really important because I think sometimes people expect to be on that straight and narrow when they're trying to get into graduate school, and it's just not like that.
Absolutely not.
It's twists and turns, and it's just all types of stuff that
ups
happens.
And downs.
Right. And so they need to know, hey, we went through all of those same things. We're still here. You're going to be fine. I know it doesn't feel like it today. There's always tomorrow. You're going to be fine.
You know what? That is phenomenal. There's always tomorrow. So in our last few moments, I want to talk about why just her? Why not he and her, right? Why not them? Why just her?
So I, in just the experiences that I've had as a Black woman pursuing this career, I really wanted to focus my energy on those young women who look like me. And help uplift them, help encourage them. I know that there are other organizations that are out there for young men and young Black men. And so I just really wanted to focus my energy on young Black women pursuing this journey. There are many STEM programs that are available. But I really wanted this to be specifically for those young Black women pursuing careers in medicine. I know previously you'd mentioned health inequities, and specifically the national conversation on the Black maternal morbidity and mortality. And one way to help combat that is by helping more Black physicians enter this world. So, that's certainly the goal.
Absolutely. And give us a few of the successes that you've seen from those that have been involved in your program.
One, by just finding out about some of those programs that we mentioned before to finance your education.
Absolutely.
Number two, the ways that people have found to make your applications much more competitive. As you mentioned before, I think the days of matriculating straight from undergraduate to graduate institutions are kind of few and far between. We really encourage life experiences, and so having these individuals from these institutions here in the area and beyond who are on the boards, who are serving as associate vice deans of admissions and et cetera, like being there to tell them, hey, these are the ways that during your gap year you're able to strengthen your application. These are the things you should do. These are the things you should not do. Right. Is very important. And by just helping those get into medical school by mock interviews and other things that we're able to offer. Our first young lady was admitted into medical school and started this fall, Ms. Dalia Kennedy, who is at AUC. Nice. And one of the things that she talked about that was very helpful was our mock interview. And it was myself along with other current medical students that did an interview for her. We recorded it. We, let her know in real time things that she did fantastic on and things that needed a little bit of work. And those were very helpful for her in her actual interview. And so these are just things that we want to continue to do, for all the young women in our program and those who are to come.
Dr. Lavonne Hairston, MD, time for her, giving back to the community, giving back to future leaders, and making sure that she's not the last Black female physician in this area to do such that. Tell us how we can learn more about the organization and those that are listening that want to get involved or even donate. How can they do so?
Absolutely. So our website is www.time4her.org. There is a place to contact us. There's also a place to provide donations as well, which will be much appreciated. We have a Facebook page, Time for Her, and we also have an Instagram page, Time.for Her, all of which can be utilized to reach out to us.
Dr. Hairston, it has been my pleasure, my honor to have you here on the campus of Norfolk State University here in WNSB Hot 91, the Solar VA on Stay the Water. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And all the best and success to you with your organization.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next, we have my good friend, Blair Durham, founder of Black Brands and also Black Wall Street. So stay tuned. This is Stay the Water. Be great, do good, and God bless. We'll see you next week.